Welcome back to my channel. I am doing another speed paint because I love my tablet and that's the only reason. No. Actually, I've been wanting to do like Teen Titans and stuff, fan art for a while, mostly Starfire and Raven. And so I decided to do Raven today. I actually really like how she came out. I think I pushed myself a little bit more than I usually do. You'll see some wicked proportions for a while. I was having kind of an off day when I started this, so it's a little janky, a little wonky, but I do fix it up and I give her more of a what do I want to call it? Like a, instead of it being such a stagnant pose, it's more dynamic. There we go. There's the word. So she is a lot more dynamic in this pose when I come back to it the next day. I did do this over, I think, 3 or 4 days. I kept stopping because I wasn't feeling it, and then like I would keep going with it. A lot of the time, there was a lot of times where I was just like, nah, maybe I shouldn't. Nah, this doesn't look right. I should just stop. I should scrap it. Blah blah blah. I actually was planning on doing a Codename Kids Next Door one, and I completely scrapped that. I hate how it came out, so that one was scrapped. And you will see me doing a lot of like copying and pasting of like the body proportions that I like to see, that I like. If I did when I did a really good hand on this one, I did decide to do to bring it over to the other one. And this hand, I mean, it's a good hand, but it just doesn't fit with the pose that I was going for, so I went more for like a grippy, holdy, you'll see, grippy, holdy pose. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. But I think that this hand came out quite well, so I did copy and paste it over to the other side, just like her leg, because I like the proportions. But yeah, so there is some of that, and I hope you don't mind that. But yeah, so right now this is just all line work, like rough sketching, getting everything how I want it, where I want it. I felt like her neck was way too far down, and like the pose was kind of boring and awkward. So now I'm starting with like the more real line work, putting in stuff like her eyes, you know, her clothing, her facial features, her clothing, stuff like that, getting her ready to have like the final line work. And at first, when I did draw this, I did start doing like a lineless artwork, and then I felt like that was a little too far away from like her actual like how she actually looks. Obviously she's a drawn cartoon character, so I did end up putting in lines where I felt like they were needed. So like around the face, I don't think I gave her lines around her hair or her bodysuit, but I think I gave her lines everywhere else. And if you do hear clicking in the background, my boyfriend is playing Halo and dying. So I went back and forth with this mouth quite a few times. I wanted her to have like a downtrodden, like I'm using my powers and I'm kind of annoyed kind of look. And I was just really looking at her body and her proportions to make sure that I was getting them down right. This is like Raven and Maya style, but I did want to get her clothing right and stuff like that. I do really like how this came out. I mean, with like the Rosalina drawing and the Cosmo and Wanda drawing, because I did find a better way of like coloring without using the blur tool all the time. I am very happy with how this did come out this time around. I think it came out a lot better. And when you see me not doing anything on the screen, I forgot that this doesn't show you what I'm doing like on the internet, but I was actually on Google looking up different, um, like, I was making sure her gloves did have, like, that, what do you call it, the gem on it and stuff, and that they were, like, gloves and not, like, a finger, what do you want to call it? Like, I know what I'm trying to say. But, like, so it didn't go up on her hand on the backside. And right now, like I said, her pose isn't as dynamic, so I get all of this done. And the next day I come back and start coloring, and I decide that I want to give her more of a dynamic pose. So I do end up moving her leg up and her one arm down so they're not in the same place. And you'll see that in just a minute. So now I'm starting the line work, and I decided to stop for the night. And I come back to it the next day, and here's where I decide that I make her leg a little bit longer and her other leg coming up. And I felt like this was a little bit more dynamic and not as boring to look at. Because Raven is a very dynamic person. She's not very, she's not stagnant. So I felt like this was a lot better. And here's where I'm just taking the colors from, her original, Teen Titans. Make sure I have all the colors that I need. The only thing I really do different is actually give her like a lipstick kind of thing. And you can see here that I did actually take out the line work. Decided that I didn't want to do that. So here's where I start putting in all of the color. So you'll see that I do put in like the light colors, the dark colors, and then I'm actually using I think it's watercolor brush. I downloaded a whole bunch from off of DeviantArt, and I found out that this one really worked for me. I do want to experiment with all the other ones that I did get, but this one I did do a whole drawing. I'll throw it up on the screen now. So this piece was the first piece that I did with that lineless look. It took me, I don't know, probably altogether 24 hours, honestly. I worked on it a lot, and that's where I found out that I like this this lineless style. So I started doing that here because I wanted to try to do a full lineless style, even though that's not like my style right now. Like, I'm just getting into it, but I really wanted to see how this would work with like this kind of with like the lineless look, but also the painterly look, also the cartoony look. It was like a mixture of everything. But I do really like the use of this this watercolor brush, and all I did was look up, free SAI paintbrushes or brushes online, and obviously it takes you right to DeviantArt. It always does, because DeviantArt is where it's at. And then I did find if you, did all of this work like this and it's still a little choppy, you can go back in with the blur tool and like really make it look like smooth instead of like an actual painting, which I did with like the bigger sections where there was a lot of the lines, or the, I guess, brush strokes you could call it. The only problem that I have is with the noses, as you can see. I don't do great noses. That's the only problem I have. But this is just a lot of back and forth, putting shadows in. Oh, and I was finding a thing to line. Don't mind that. And I could have used the line work layer, but I decided that I didn't want to do that. I wanted to do this all freehand without the help of that. The only time I did use the line work was doing it on the cape, because I couldn't keep a, completely steady line. I don't think a lot of people can. And this is another thing. I wanted the eyes to be even, so I did take and flip it. And I also took and flipped the eyebrow, because I really liked how these ones came out, and I can't do my left side as well as I can do my right side. So the biggest difference that I did with Raven in this whole thing was give her lipstick. And her mouth, I didn't realize was really small, so I did make it a lot bigger. But that was the biggest difference that I made between this one and the actual like cartoon, was the fact that I gave her lipstick. I know she has that bigger shadow on, I think usually her upper lip, but I decided, you know, to actually give her lipstick, and I think it made it look a lot more my style, because all of my females have some sort of color on their lips, because I'm a lipstick fiend. I'm a lipstick hoarder. I have so many lipsticks, it's not even funny. So you'll see that I never drew in pupils, and that's because I'm doing the, when she's using her powers and her eyes go completely white, I am doing that because she is going to be using her powers. And I put this on a different layer and use luminosity to like really make it bright and stand out, and you'll see that I take like 20 minutes on just trying to make her eyes look cool. And I really didn't need to do all of the work that I did, but that's okay. Actually, I cut a lot of it out. Making sure her diamond's even, so I do the, you know, copy paste again. That might irk some people, but I wanted it to be even and good, so that's what I did. So now I start with her hair, that beautiful purpley blue color. Well, I guess her hair is more purple and then her cape's more purpley blue, but you know. And I come back the next day, and this is where I start really putting in detail into her hair. I don't just leave it a blob, I promise. Like I said, I didn't do line work on her hair because I just think that would make it look too flat. But other than that, I pretty much just do line work on everything besides her jumper, or her, what's it called, her bodysuit. Because I feel like that doesn't need it when it's already all black and it just has the color, like the shininess to it. So I give her more hair on that one side because I felt like it was very, like, flat right there, and I felt like she needed more hair. And now I start on her jewel, decide that I should probably do the shading of the metal part first, and then put in the jewel, because that's what would make the most sense, than trying to shade around it when it was on the same layer. I do end up putting it on 2 different layers because that makes more sense. I do think these gems came out really good. I do like the looks of them, but this is totally off center, so I do put it on center. I do center it. There's the word. And now I'm starting on her beautiful cape. Oh, actually first I was trying to do line work around the entire, I was trying to make a perfect circle around the, what do you call it? The gem, the jewel, the thing. And so I just accomplished that by using the same thing that I made the perfect circle with, which was the binary ink pen, and then just erasing the inside of the binary ink pen. And I'm still using the same technique with that watercolor brush, putting in the shadows, the lights, and then blending it all out with the same brush. And if I needed to, I could blur it. I don't think I did with this part because I didn't figure that out until I got to the legs, because they're a bigger surface area, so they had a lot more lines and strokes on them, and it didn't look great, which you'll see, but I think I figured it out. Also, something that I wanted to say when I put in my other colored picture, I didn't record that. Not because I forgot to or anything. I didn't want to, because it was the first time I was trying out this painterly style for real. So sadly, if you want to see that drawing, I do not have it. I'm sorry. But I think for the rest of the video, I'm gonna finally shut my mouth and allow you guys to enjoy watching the rest of this. It did take me a while. I'm sorry for the longer video. I hope you guys still enjoy it. And I will be back to say my final thoughts. So we're coming up to the end here, and the only thing that I have a problem with is the right foot. Actually, both the feet, kind of. They're a little janky, they're a little wonky. I had kind of a hard time doing this, like, 3/4 look, I guess. And, but for the most part, I do really like this drawing. The feet are pretty much the only thing that I would fix. I do very much like this picture. I think it came out great, and I want to push myself harder and better. And don't mind me messing with the background. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I do want to push myself more and get even better with this. I do love how this came out, but I do think I can do better. So if you did enjoy this video, please let me know. Leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think. All of that good jazz. I hope you're all staying safe and staying healthy, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye!